Hello, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing live show number 560. Nice roundish number this week, 560. I'm your host, Lauren Gray. Thank you so much for joining us live as we watch everyone come into the live simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, but most importantly, our TV channel that goes and broadcasts to 209 countries around the world, the Hospitality Channel, which you can find on your smart TVs, whether it be Google, Amazon, Apple, Roku, Samsung, whatever it is, just the Hospitality Channel. We also broadcast on our app, which is available at Google Play and iPhone, Apple Store, yay, App Store. You can find it also the Hospitality Channel app, or yes. Anyways, sorry, mine's focused on the topic today. It kind of just hit me. I had this other topic planned, kind of a continuing strategy, advertising strategies, and so forth that we had been having these past 3 weeks. Kind of jump ship on it for this 1 week. We're going to jump back to it more particularly about other variations of channels starting next week again. But I wanted to talk about where are we right now? And that literally is my topic today. Where are we right now? April 2026 marketing check. The idea of we've had a full first quarter. We've gotten our reporting finalized. We have our details corrected for all of the variations that happened for first quarter. And yet we've also had the impact of the things that have changed since the latter part of February into now what we're seeing the effects for business-wise. Geopolitical, what have you, oil prices, easier way to say it. Travel demand, travel direction of demand as to who's deciding to go where, international travel variations coming into domestic U.S., what have you. And it really is beginning to see how that's going to affect current and future tense business for us going into the summer program. This year, we did have an earlier than normal Easter for usually a pivot points on our spring break, spring travel program. And because of that, it has a shortening of it, compression, mind you, and everybody, for the most part, had as expected and slightly better in most cases, spring break for those markets that receive positive for spring break. There are markets, still remember to this day, going to Dallas and wondering way back in the day why it was so empty in the middle of March. And they said, well, it's spring break. And I'm like, yeah, you guys should be busy, right? Thinking I'm very much coming from Florida. Spring break is, But where I was in part of Dallas, they said, no, this is where everybody leaves to go on to spring break from. And it was, yes, they all have to come from somewhere, don't they? And that was no exception for me figuring that out as well. So anyways, where are we for now being the fourth month? I can say right now the pace is questionable. Channels of opportunity have changed. Now, that could be said at any quarter at any time in the history of us ever doing this. This quarter is feeling this way, it's feeling that way. Sentiment of dialogue with people, talking about how things are going in comparison to one, what they historically had, two, what they anticipated they were going to have, and three, the actualization of what's currently happening, are mixed. We're seeing a lot more variations as to the sources of market for the clients that I talk with and on a regular basis, and for keeping up with our community we have on hospitalitymarketing.club, where we talk about this and with a variety of people that have a variety of portfolios elsewhere as to the ebbs and flows of the demands to their market. A lot of people, as we talked about since the beginning of the year, have more of a performance-based budget incentive mindset that says it can't get spent if it can't be validated and being spent. Not a, here's your money, spend it, and we collectively decide if it was spent well forensically. It's you always have to keep hitting your KPIs, which kind of went into why we created our few shows prior to this one, talking about advertising opportunities, advertising yield, which market percentages get most of the lion's share of the budget, or spend percentages, I should say. We talk about ads and the creative values and the usages of the moderately producing ad group types as being able to teach AI faster, quicker. So there's value proposition, even though the KPI might not be there. But over and all, This is all related to how budgets have been being used and yielded this year, much more so than in times past. It's been a progressive understanding of how budgets can be flexible. They're not chiseled in stone, put away to be used as, the tablets get brought out every time the law has to be commanded. Instead, it's more of a, where's our moving average of what we have expected for what's coming from it, and what are we spending towards it? But more importantly, what are our expectation goals? A lot of times, I would say that budgets for a year tend to be more in stone when it comes to revenue generation and more flexible when it comes to the cost to generate it. They will surrender only afterwards that the revenue numbers that were projected were overshot or a variance of whatever because of whatever. But they are very much about their cost factors always being as limiting as possible, even when it's successful, even when the campaigns are producing the way they were anticipated, even when the campaigns are having the results that they were expected to have. They still try to spend less because of it. It's natural business nature that you don't want to spend more than you have to. But the reality of it is that sometimes there is a push beyond what you've been planned on spending if the yieldability is there. A good simple example of that is if you're getting a 20-to-1 return on something that says for every dollar you're spending, you're getting 20 of it back. Okay, let's give you $1, you give me $20. Yay! How many dollars are you willing to give? Everyone may think that's a wonderful thing, and it is, but you have to look at the quantity that's generating from it. Just straightforward math. If you're getting 20-to-1, and you want to spend more money to get that 20-to-1, you're not going to continue to get 20-to-1. You have a certain defined audience. You have a certain percentage that you're exposed to of that audience. That's where you're generating your return. The more audience you have to spend to get in front of you, the more your costs go up. Also means the less return you get for those audiences. Now, you may think that's a negative, meaning, wait a minute, Lauren, why would I do that? If I'm getting 20-to-1, why don't I just spend what I'm getting 20-to-1 for? I don't want to spend more money and get down to a 10-to-1 because that's half the value of what I was doing for the dollars I was spending. This is where the third number comes in, which is the volume that you generate from it. Remember, we talked about shared KPIs. Revenue management has a goal of what revenue you need to generate for that month. Marketing has the responsibility to generate that revenue in collaboration with all the other events and things that are going on from the property. And where marketers might harbor on ROAS more, but it doesn't generate quantitative-wise the amount of money that it needs to. I've used this example, just used it last week, so please pardon me for repeating it again this week, that if I have a 20-to-1 ROAS on an ad campaign, but it only generated $5,000 by doing so, the financial goal, the revenue goal for that month was $100,000. Thank you for the 5, would have liked 95,000 more. That aspect is what I'm saying when it comes to your ratio of ROI, 20-to-1 versus going down to a 10-to-1. The volume of revenue you generate because of the increased audiences you're getting to takes that $5,000 nut at 20-to-1. It may make it $25,000 at 10-to-1. Yeah, you're only getting 10-to-1 in comparison to 20-to-1, but you made 5 times more money because of it. That's a factor that a lot of times doesn't get into the discussion. They get very myopic into their view of ROI. Oh my God, 20-to-1, don't change a thing. That's what we want to do. Yeah, but there's a trickle out of the faucet. It's not all the water you need. Turn it on more. It's going to cost you more, but you're going to get more for it. There is, on the other side of that conversation, just to go into this math hole a little farther, diminished value of return. The next dollar you spend is $1 too much, meaning I don't get the same yield off of it, okay? Where it costs me more money to make that next dollar than I should have spent to get it. And that usually gets down into the 2 to 3-to-1 range. At that point, given all of the constraints of the cost of what you're selling, that ratio of value is no longer viable to your net profit line. You'll go down to that level for what's called cash flow conversation. We had that conversation in, let me look real quick, show number 547, cash flow indications and cash flow value. Yes, folks, we are keeping track of the topics. And so because of that, you may need the cash flow for the obvious reasons of not having to take out a loan, which has cost more money, or put more money into OTAs that cost you more money to get. And so it's better for you to make the direct channel because you don't have to spend as much money to get to it. We had a whole math conversation about it back then too. So please go back to that show. I can recap. If you have a question in particular about it, I'll be happy to answer via email, lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. At any time, all those answers come through whenever we get the chance. So the idea that right now you have to look at your market mix as to where you're generating, what revenues are coming from, and the cost associated with each of the channels. Because of that, you need to see what your pacing is towards summer. Like I just said, the 20 to 1 to 10 to 1 to 5 to 1 down to 2, 3 to 1. There's the diminished value return on the far end where it just cost you too much money for the money you generated. It wasn't worth it to do. So too is to generate a better volume of revenue, even though it has a less return on investment, the volume of contribution is much higher. Transport that to a summer conversation. Which channels are producing for you? Have they shifted compared to what you've historically had this time last year? When you do that, you have to assess what the variance is for and from and because of. You can't go over and say, well, my OTAs always provided this percentage. Why have they always provided that percentage? If you said my Google paid campaigns, my Bing paid campaigns have always been this percentage of contribution. Validate that statement as to why. Is it from the market type, the event driven, the targeting that you've done? Is it because it's the only channel that's used in a certain classification? So I'm being vague by saying this. So say for instance, you've had a very good paid campaign program with Google for this time going for your summer development campaigns. And you've had good success with Google paid campaigns. These campaigns have rung your bell. They've been your top 6% producers, which was like our conversation from last week as to your top line producing volume of ROI. And they did this for what reason? This is what you're questioning. It's like, okay, so why do these ads work? Why have they historically worked? Well, they're talking about the events for summer, or they're talking about our special for summer, or we're talking about, because we have such demand to market, our opportunity to book with us for summer. We're opening up inventory that early on, because we know we have early people that are looking for this inventory. Whatever those causations are, your first question to the channel is this the only channel I'm putting it in? If it's yes, why? Why is this the only channel I'm putting in? Why am I not putting more into my social channel? Why am I not possibly doing OTT with it? Why am I not possibly offering it as a hard sell meta? If the demand is already there, I don't have to explain the interest. The interest is already there. Why don't I put it on meta search where the rates and inventory availability are the key aspects of what the channel contribution is? Maybe expand that channel. Why am I putting the money towards the Google paid campaign channel or the Bing campaign channel in contrast to any other channel of opportunity, perhaps a lower cost channel that makes it easier for me to have the direct connect with it for it? One of those considerations that is changing very quickly right now is the ability to have your long language model discover you, so Gemini, as we talked about 2 shows ago, and also 4 shows ago. I'm referring to a lot of old shows. Sorry, I'm going to stop doing that. There is a lot of cool show content that we've just recently gone through that is very reminiscent of why we're bringing it up right now, where you can now have your inventory availability through Google Hotel Ads through a third party that is distributing that for this, for Gemini to come in and say, hey, look, if you're looking for this particular hotel, I can actually give you a deep link with rate and availability, because I've checked for both, that fits your criteria. Here's the link to do it right into a long language model results. They're blossoming right now. There's a lot of entities that are out there selling this ability. Problem is, news-wise, long language models want to monetize, and they realize that they are no longer going to keep letting these independent MCPs do this via them without creating a pay gateway for it. So that's happening very quickly. So right now, the opportunity is kind of a free for capable of doing it, but pretty soon it's going to be no, not unless you pay for the availability to do it. But you have to consider it into your possibilities of channel production opportunity. You have to constantly compare and contrast your channels to the cost of those channels to the productivity of those channels. So going back to our original, you've always done it a certain way, Google Ads campaign. This is your chance to say, this is what sells, and it sells on Google for this reason. Let's see if another channel can produce it for us as well. The other would be also, is it targeting that is related to Google that is creating the benefit of what Google produces? And can you replicate that targeting for other channels? Can you take what you know you're targeting your Google ad campaigns that are being so successful for this time of year, and can it be beneficial on paid social? Is there a long enough timeline that social can interact enough and amplify the conversion value of the ads that you're running or the content you're running? Is there a way that you can put the content of the offerings on now that will help with your long language model discoveries, putting the content and getting your SEO optimized as fast as possible? We talked about it in some of the old show last week about how your ads can, for moderate placed ad capabilities, actually educate AI faster about what you're offering than your SEO cultivation and strategy would do just for content development. So these are questions that need to be asked now, not sit and wait and see how the process worked. Did it work as good as it did last year? We didn't do too much different. Or are you doing a strong evaluative process right now that says, this is why we did well for what we've used, this channel. We're going to try this other channel, same strategy, different modality. Can it produce of equal value or lesser greater value, okay, than what we've historically done? You take this same strategy and flip it over to the non-producing stuff. What is it that doesn't make this produce? Is social organic so bad because it takes so long for people to identify us in relationship to the product that we're offering, for the events that are driving it, the summertime events and what have you, that by the time they discover us as an entity of value, they've already made their purchase decisions? How can we change that model? Social usually goes organic, then you go into paid organic, paid social, then you go into paid campaigns, and then you expand the campaigns to multi-channels. In some instances, doing paid social to seed the audiences to your organic content might be a better inverted strategy to say, look, we really have a lot of great content about summer. And it's just not about a single event or single window of time. It's about the cumulative value of summer as our destination represents. We need to make sure that they're introduced to our source of content so that they constantly rely upon interacting with us, so that we can constantly be making them aware of the fun things that we're offering through the entire spectrum of time that we're trying to book for. Not just this given event window, but rather the entire spectrum of the season. Making that availability happen strategically on your channels is what you need to be looking at right now. It's April. We've had our first quarter. A lot of it, almost all of it, was under no influence of what happened that has now changed the dynamics of the second and third and forever going forward things, oil prices and what have you, all this going on. So you now have to understand the changing sentiment of interest. So you should definitely be looking at questioning what it is that you have strategically planned for. One, is it still valid? Two, what makes it valid? Three, can it be multiplied as to what makes it valid to other channels that may not be as historically valuable? And most important of all of it is, do we need to reevaluate whom we're talking to? What we're saying to them. Is the content that we've built and created and cultivated SEO value for still our highest value relevancy, or should we consider augmenting it? Should we consider changing it? These are the things that need to be in discussions right now. Just knowing that you had 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever programs for summer, it's going to be this weekend event, that window where we have the demand for our market. This is that event on that. That's that holiday over there. That's that other holiday. That's the back to school thing. You have all your benchmarks, okay, of what you are planning around and have planned for and have historically done. But is the modality of what you're doing for them as valid as it was the last time you did it? Because we know each year is different, each quarter is different. All the things we always say, yes, we can say the same thing about every quarter we do. Every quarter does have a variance that they didn't have last year or the quarter before or what have you. That's what makes life exciting. But are we adapting to those variations as they come through, or are we sitting to find out whether we guessed right earlier back in budget land time last year, August, September, October? Or are you adaptively, like you're doing with your budgets, saying, let's evaluate if this is still the best choice before we just spend the money on it to find out we were wrong? That's the key element. So the whole purpose of today's show was, where are we right now? April 2026 marketing check. I think we hit the points that I wanted to hit. Makes it a little bit of a shorter show today. So sorry if you were looking for the long-winded conversations I tended to pontificate on, but this was probably more of a succinct statement to all of it. So once again, if you have any questions about the show, any comments or suggestions, insights, or what have you, you can reach out to me at lauren@hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com. I answer each and every email related to the live show as well as to the audio podcast, which also you can reach out to me at lauren@hospitalityradio.com or lauren@hospitalitychannel.tv.com. I answered all of them. And I do answer all of them as well. If you are watching us on our TV channel in 209 different countries, which I know from our feed, I see several in awesome time zones. Thank you so much for watching us and catching us live. But we do recast this show at 11:30 a.m. Sydney, Australian, and London time to catch all of our APAC and EU and Mid-East friends. Catch us on the radio station. The new show goes live at 1 p.m. every day for 7 days until the new show kicks and replaces it at 1 p.m. And it gets bumped to the 1:45 or 2 o'clock slot. They push them down that schedule if it goes. We do have other time slots that are specific that it doesn't push through. It drops the older shows off. So from 1 to 4, we run our shows for marketing. From 4 to 7, we run revenue management. And from 7 until 10, we run accounting, human resources, operations. We have a spectrum of 24-hour cycle from podcasts from around the world that are phenomenal. Our audio podcast is broadcast radio-wise in 39 countries. We do translate our show in 11 languages for all the higher populations that watch our show globally in the 209 countries that we broadcast. And for those of us that catch us on our simulcast, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, channels and pages from a variety of corporate relationships and associations that we in support of and what have you. We thank you each and every time that you get to watch our show for all those and for the support that you give for us. If you are a hospitality professional and want to join a peer level group to discuss exactly these things with a small group of people that you don't have to predicate your conversation with, you can join us at hospitalitymarketing.club. Put in your email, send you a quiz to validate that you're a hospitality marketer currently. And then once that, we invite you into the group. Several groups, actually. So anyways, with all of that, my name is Lauren Gray. I thank you for the privilege of your time. I look forward to talking to you all next week.